Ready. Play.
Yo, Grand Slam tennis is back. Rafa Nadal is sort of back at the French Open, and that's actually what we're going to start from. Because besides the matches today, we had the tribute that was organized there for Rafa. Obviously, last year was kind of unceremonious in a way, even though he lost to Zverev, it was the opening round. Personally, I didn't watch it. I was just getting frustrated that my man Vitkov Shiva is one game away, and my whole timeline is talking about Rafa Nadal. But Vansh, I mean, how did you enjoy this? And was it better than the previous versions of Rafa Farewell that we got?
Well, to answer your last question, yeah, it absolutely was. It was nothing like Malaga. It was nothing like RG last year. It obviously we had the farewell that he had in Rome. That was also pretty cool, especially the setting with the fans and everything. That was nice, and also the Olympics moment. But we didn't have one at RG, which is literally the court that personifies Rafa more than any other. So based on all of that, I wasn't. My expectations were low, so I was present in the. I was definitely surprised by how well it was organized and planned, and I think definitely having all the big four together really kind of added that extra color and touch that I think you really need. And obviously, there were a lot of cool pictures and videos that came from that. Also, Carlos and Iga were in the crowd as well, so that was cool to see. And then they were all wearing that Merci Rafa shirt, and it was all coordinated and perfectly planned. I did not watch the part where he was talking because I was trying to figure out how if I could put it on one screen where I could see it. And then being from the States, the coverage is a little different this year on TNT Sports. But then I managed to turn it on right at the time when the big four were together on the stage, and he was being presented the trophy, and then he was addressing them. So I thought that was pretty neat. And then obviously having the plaque on the side of the net that has his footprint on it. That's pretty cool. That's going to stay there forever, or at least however length of time that unbreakable record will remain, right? So that was cool. That was a good touch. And then the whole thing, Rafa obviously was super emotional. I'm sure people watching were. So yeah, overall it was one of the best tributes I've seen. Yeah, don't really have any complaints about it. It was very well done. At the end, his son was there as he said farewell. So I think he's like 2.5, almost 3. So at some point he'll look back on this and think that was a very cool moment. And then we also had videos of his son meeting the other members of the Big Four. So that was all cool and stuff. Yeah. As far as the ceremony goes, I think they really nailed it. In general, I feel like Paris knows how to celebrate Rafa with the Olympics last year, getting the holding the torch from Zayn Zidane, and then also this moment right here. So yeah, I think that was a good way to start the tournament, and it was done right in the middle of the day and night session, so just before Shelton and Sonego took the court.
In terms of what you were talking about, obviously it's nice that he got that sort of sent off, the whole Big Four showing up as like this sort of Avengers-like thing. And yeah, the plaque, I think, is definitely a very cool thing. I do have to mention that pretty much the only other record that is as unbreakable is Talon Hrikspor's 8 challenger titles in a season, because that's like almost impossible mathematically. Now that if you win, let's say 6, you're not going to be playing challengers anymore. But well, that's all that I can really say in terms of Rafa. But we did have a pretty interesting poll, right, that we can talk about. I don't know if you already mentioned that or not. I don't know which options were obviously presented in the poll, but of course there are more or less 14 options anyway. Well, not even more or less, exactly, since we are talking about which Rafa title at Roland Garros was the most impressive. And I actually have an answer that is not even part of the poll. So, First of all, Vansh, what is your idea on this?
Well, I guess I'm very mainstream because I immediately was thinking 2022, only because of the doubts that he had coming in, and that he couldn't really walk against Shapovalov, and then also he was getting injections before every match, basically, pretty much during the fortnight, and then he beat Djokovic. He survived that physical war against Zverev. He crushed Ruud in the final. Even 5 sets against Felix. So there were a lot of moments where he other mortal athletes would not have won that tournament. So I kind of, for me, that's maybe the most impressive because for the first time he was in a dominant period in a dominant season where he was getting by these matches and just kind of on his last leg. So for me, that's probably the one. I also thought of maybe 2013, but I couldn't really, just maybe with the injury in 2012 and then also the match with Djokovic, and then all the others to me are kind of more one-sided. I guess there's an argument for 2005, 2008 was there, but yeah, I want to hear yours now.
2011, I wanted to go for,
Okay.
which is pretty funny. Isner 5-setter in the opening
Yeah.
round. That happens so rarely to Rafa to even go more than 3 sets in the opening round. And then I think it's also the best match that Federer played against him at Roland Garros, and he like miraculously wins the opening set from 2-5 and set point down, and
Mm.
obviously wins the match in four. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the potential options. 13, I guess, was also pretty nice in the fact that the first 2 rounds he loses sets to, players that usually in Roland Garros he just completely dominates, and then he like plays himself into the event. But the final against Ferrer kind of takes it, takes some magic away from me. I think 2000 for me, also 2017. That was another one where he was just like barely dropping any points games. I guess we had 2 very dominant slam runs that year, one from Roger and one from Rafa. And they were both like impressive in how dominant they were. Obviously, didn't drop a set, but also the competition wasn't at at its strongest
Yeah.
right there. So I guess I see that argument too. But yeah, I mean the one in 2022, just because of what was happening to him during the warm up swing, also some of the matches he played along the way. Zverev, if he doesn't twist his ankle, who knows? But yeah, I mean, maybe this is also another one that just kind of the fact that the final was so forgettable takes a little magic away from that. But yeah, I mean, obviously there are a few options. The ones from the 2000s, I mean, to me, they kind of blend together in many ways. You've got 4 in a row. Every single time, there's pretty much just like one memorable match, and that's against Federer for one reason or another, because in 2008, it's memorable for being so short. I guess there's like the Mathieu 2006 clash. There's probably a few others, but they do kind of blend together for me, which is also because I wasn't following them live at the time.
Yeah, interesting. As you were talking, I kind of just realized there's probably one underrated RG that he won, which is 2014. Because coming into that clay swing, throughout the whole clay swing, he wasn't that dominant. Like he lost to Almagro in Barcelona, he lost to Ferrer in Monte Carlo, who he pretty much never loses to. And then in Madrid, he was kind of lucky to beat Nishikori in the final. And then he loses to Djokovic in Rome. By that time, he started to get his level back. But coming in, there was some doubts, also because he had injured his back in Australia, and some of that 2013, he wasn't playing at the same level that he was in 2013, for sure. And it was kind of the
Yeah, I
last
mean that's true, but
dominant
that's just like one match against
stretch.
Novak, right? That is
And then also
impressive.
the
But yeah,
quarterfinals, I think he struggled with Ferrer for about 2 sets
yeah, but
before
it's still
finally then he ran away with it. And then he had the one-sided match against Murray. But then the first 2 sets against Djokovic were also kind of up in the balance. He started not feeling that great towards the end of the fourth. So there was a little bit of drama at least in that tournament and run. Like it wasn't a foregone conclusion. I think many people were actually picking Djokovic to win it that year. Whereas I don't think that was the case in 13 or 12 or maybe in 11. Maybe some people were picking Djokovic.
11.
But
Novak was definitely the favorite going into the
yeah,
French. I mean, he had just defeated Rafa a couple of times on clay and was on that incredible win streak. But of course, we didn't get that showdown in the end, so that's
yeah.
also kind
But
of
I think
irrelevant.
that's probably one campaign that doesn't get as much talk, I would say.
Sure. I don't hate that at all. I think kind of similar, like the ones from the 2000s blend together for me. There's also the latter patch of like 17 to 20, when again, I don't feel like it was the strongest competition, really. Dominic Thiem was the second best player in the world, really, on clay at the time. And he could only go like, 2 sets with Rafa in one of the finals at like full intensity.
Yeah.
So these I would kind of also just not really like include. And probably for me, the answer would be either, yeah, the last one or one of these more, early 2000s vibes. Yeah, is that all we have to say right now on the Rafa farewell?
Yeah. Anything else to add about the ceremony from your point of view? I mean, you didn't really watch it, but
I didn't watch, like, I saw photos from it, so
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I was just
Yeah.
focused on the tennis. I watched that Songa retirement ceremony, I remember, because it was right after the match. But
Yeah.
here, because it was just like, I would actually have to turn it on, make the
Yeah.
effort. No, I wasn't really ready to do that. If it was right after the Zverev match last year, I probably would have watched it, yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, they weren't ready with it. With Tsonga, they were expecting that he's probably gonna lose to Casper, right? Whereas with
Yeah.
Rafa, I suppose they had to be like, oh, I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen really. So
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.